Number 10. Filleted fish comes to life. This video begins with your average filleted fish, just lying on the table, waiting to be turned into a delicious meal. Nothing too special here. Then, after a while, its head and fins start to move. But it's when a person filming this video moves the fish back on the table that the fish starts acting rather bizarre. You can see it bouncing repeatedly, almost as if it's dancing. As bizarre as this video looks, there's a scientific explanation for why this is happening. As you can see, while the fish is dead, its head and spinal cord are still intact, meaning that the muscle motor neurons still contain membrane potential, which can ultimately lead to movement. Either way, I will never look at fish the same way after watching this video. Number 9. Headless cockroaches. If you're like most people, the sight of a cockroach scurrying along the floor probably freaks you out. But making your skin crawl isn't the only reason why the cockroaches have a bad rep. On top of hanging out in dirty environments, it's also believed some species may carry all kinds of nasty germs and spread disease. But what you probably don't know is that the cockroaches have some pretty extraordinary abilities. You see, these insects are very vital. So much so that they could withstand even a nuclear war or other global catastrophes. But most interestingly, they can survive for weeks after being decapitated. It's because the cockroaches breathe not through their mouths or nose like humans, but through special spiracles which are located in the lateral parts of the abdomen of these insects. Since the head isn't responsible for breathing or even controlling breath, the insect can live without it for a couple of weeks, until it eventually dies of starvation. Nobody likes being stung by a bee, but did you know that you should leave bees alone whether they're alive or dead? This, of course, doesn't mean that the bees are able to somehow come back to life. No, once they die, they stay dead. There is, however, one part of them that still functions long after they passed away. And that part is, yeah, you guessed it, their venom delivery system. You see, when a bee sting gets embedded into the skin of its victim, the venom is pumped by a little muscle attached to it. This is not controlled by the bee's brain, but instead via involuntary impulses. So next time when you're thinking about picking up a dead bee, think again, because you could be in for a little shock. But if you decide to pick up a dead bee for some unknown reason, make sure you're not around other bees, because the stings can also release a chemical to alert other bees to threats, so they can swarm and attack. Fascinating. Number 7. Rattlesnake. In this viral video, you can see a bunch of friends horsing around with a headless rattlesnake. Stupid. They're fascinated by the fact that the snake is still moving, even though its head got chopped off an hour ago. A woman then puts the snake's body in the basket, while the camera zooms in on the snake's head. She warns her friends not to touch it. Duh! The headless snake jumps out of the basket and starts moving towards its head before freezing again. A man then tries to grab the snake, but is almost bitten. How is this possible, you ask? Well, it's because snakes can retain reflexes after death. The bite reflex of a decapitated snake's head can be triggered hours after the snake dies. Number 6. Salamanders. This amazing time-lapse video shows an amputated limb of a salamander growing over the course of about 90 days. It then shows us an animation of a salamander with a completely new limb. As you can see, it looks perfect. It has an outside bone, nerves, muscle, and can even wiggle. Then it gets chopped off only to grow again. How amazing is that? The video then goes on to explain how this is possible. You can see the cells streaming out of the surrounding tissues into the area of the wound, forming what is called a blastema, a group of undifferentiated cells that are just like stem cells. They are multicolored because they come from skin, muscle, and even from cartilage. These have a miraculous memory of what they used to be, and they are able to form a particularly functional limb. As you can see, there are no signs of amputation, no scarring, and no damaged tissue. It's also believed that salamanders can regenerate any part of their body countless times. Number 5. Alligators. This video, recorded at the Shalott River Swamp Park in North Carolina, shows us a rather incredible survival technique of the alligators. The park has a total of 12 alligators rescued from captivity, now hibernating in ice. As the ponds they call home started to fill with ice, the alligators stick their noses out above the surface, creating a makeshift snorkel to keep going. This allows them to breathe while entering brumation, the reptilian form of hibernation. Then body processes like their heartbeat and their breathing slow dramatically, allowing them to conserve energy and stay warm. They also become lethargic. However, once the water thaws out, these alligators will be back sunbathing. These reptiles are die-hard survivors, and this is just one example of that. Pretty incredible, huh? Number 4. Flatworm. Many people seem to believe that an earthworm, once chopped in two, would grow into 2 brand new worms. Unfortunately for the earthworms, that's simply not true. The head of the worm may survive and regenerate his tail if cut below a certain point, but the tail of the worm won't be able to grow a new head. There is, however, a type of worm that has this amazing replication ability. They are called flatworms or planarians, and they are pretty much the masters of regeneration. They actually do turn into 2 worms once one is chopped in half. In fact, a flatworm will still be alive if you cut it into 20 pieces. No matter what you do, it just refuses to die. There were even some scientists at Nottingham University who ended up creating 20,000 planarian flatworms from a single worm. This is a creature that should technically be dead by now, but it somehow defies all odds and continues to live on. Pretty crazy, right? Number 3. Alaskan wood frog. Like many other northern frogs, the Alaskan wood frog enters a period of dormancy during the cold winter months. However, it does in a dramatically different way than most frogs, by freezing almost completely. Yeah, you heard that right. The Alaskan wood frogs freeze up to 70% of their bodies, including their brain and their eyes. Their heart, lungs, and muscles all come to a complete stop, turning this little guy into a frog sickle. This is possible because of the proteins in the frog's body that suck most of the water out of its cells and replace it with glucose. In its thick, syrupy form, the glucose acts as a type of antifreeze that stops the cells from turning to ice. Once the warm weather returns, their little frog bodies thaw out and water returns to their cells, allowing them to hop away like nothing happened. Number 2. Adoridon, the dancing squid. Adoridon is a Japanese dish also known as the dancing squid. When you order this delicacy, a freshly prepared and, of course, already a dead example of this sea creature will be served at your table. But what's so special about this, you may ask? Well, as you can see in this video, it's not unusual for the squid to start moving its tentacles, especially in contact with the soy sauce. This is possibly due to the special structure of the nerve fibers of these amazing creatures. Number 1. Mike the Headless Chicken. You've probably heard that chickens can still run around for a few seconds after having their heads chopped off, hence the phrase running around like a headless chicken. There is a scientific explanation for this rather unusual phenomenon. You see, chickens have a neural network in their spine that is pre-programmed to move the muscles and frequently used movement patterns. So during their beheading, a chicken's neurons begin to fire off like crazy, causing the animal to run around for a few seconds after death. There was, however, one beheaded chicken named Mike the Headless Chicken that simply refused to die and managed to carry on without its head for an incredible 18 months. How is this possible, you ask? Well, this chicken survived because its owner's hatchet missed its jugular vein. Mike also lost a part of his brain that wasn't necessary for his body's vital function.